What's going on, everybody? KingofDragons 5000 here, coming at you with another figure review. Today we'll be having a look at the Storm Collectibles Injustice, Gods Among Us, Doomsday. And so here we have Doomsday posed and out of the packaging. Before we take a look at this massive monstrosity of a figure, let's actually look at his accessories. Doomsday here does come with two different head sculpts. In the package he does come with the head where his mouth is slightly closed. And then we do have a head where his mouth is open. Doomsday also comes with 3 pairs of hands. We get a pair of fists. We get a pair of clawing hands. And then we get a pair of open hands. Other than that, Doomsday here does not come with anything else. I don't know what more you would want Doomsday to come with, but I think he comes with a fair amount for what he is. So with that out of the way, guys, let's actually take a look at the Storm Collectibles Doomsday. And so here we have a closer look at the Storm Collectibles Doomsday, and this was the figure that made me get a new tabletop studio because he was so big, it was really hard to photograph him in that smaller studio I had, and just, my goodness, he is a big, beefy figure. Now, he does have a little bit of an undersized head. Now, I know a lot of people are complaining about the size of Doomsday's head here, but in Injustice, he kind of did have a peanut-sized head in comparison to the rest of his body. Now, granted, I think his head should be just a little bit bigger, but it still works for the Injustice Doomsday. And Storm Collectibles has done an amazing job with this figure, and I do have him with the open mouth head sculpt, and he looks really, really imposing. This is not something you want to run into in a dark alley. I do like that they did sculpt his ears. That's one little detail that was in Injustice, and they did capture it here. Doomsday actually has ears in this form. I don't know why he doesn't need ear canals, but he does have them. And I think the paint on this figure is done exceptionally well, especially in all these bone protrusions. You can see they kind of come out almost like a beard going all the way around his head. And I do like that they're not symmetrical. That's one nice detail I do appreciate, is that the bone protrusions on this side do not match the bone protrusions over here. And I do really like that little detail. Right here on Doomsday, I don't know who does his hair, probably the same person that does my hair, but he does have a really, really impressive braid with a lot of nice sculpted details. I do like that. So that's just the head sculpt on Doomsday, and let's actually take a look at his torso. Now, he does have this bone protrusion protecting his heart, even though his heart is kind of useless if you read the comics. And one thing I do like is the amount of paint that went onto this figure. You can see the grays, the whites, and a little bit of bone color on there. So I really do like how much detail is just in his chest. And if you can imagine that much detail on his chest, you can imagine that when we get to the back of the figure, that same amount of detail is there. Although I do feel like these bone protrusions should be protruding out a little bit more, and I think Storm Collectibles really missed the mark on the back spines that he has. I feel like these should be popping out just a little bit. I don't remember the full 3D rendering of the game. Maybe they're like this, but I do recall them sticking out a little bit further. So taking a look at his really big old arms, I do think that the arms are mirrored images from each other. They might not be. I think they are, but they did a really good job of just sculpting these arms. Just look at this really massive bone protrusion coming out of his shoulder. That is really signature of Doomsday. And one thing I do like is that these are solid plastic, and that is a good and bad thing. It's good because these will not warp. They'll stay in the shape they're in. But if this guy takes a tumble, these will break. So you do want to be careful with Doomsday here. And then they also come out of his bicep. You can see one here, one there, and just the amount of detailing on his skin. Storm Collectibles did absolutely everything right with this figure, from the bone protrusions. I love the coloring of them, and especially the way they come out of his forearm. That is a really nice sculpt. Just how much detail went into Doomsday is impressive. Unfortunately, his elbow didn't get any protrusions, but it is covered up by his forearm right here, so it really doesn't matter. Now, something interesting about the Injustice Doomsday is that he only had 3 bone spurs on his knuckles. Normally, Doomsday has a bone spur on each of his knuckle, but here he only has 3. He doesn't even have one coming out of his thumb. But they did a really good job painting his nails. It's that same bone color that they put throughout the rest of his bone spurs. If we have a look at his torso here, you can see he has more bone protrusions starting to come out of his abdomen, just covering more and more of them. So he is like evolving and getting these bone spurs. So I really love the amount of paint, the detailing on it. And he wouldn't be Doomsday without his traditional green shorts. And they did find a way to make Doomsday have green shorts in Injustice. And they do have this really nice techno design. You can see it looks like they have elastic straps on them. He does have some belts going around his leg, which that is somewhat of a throwback to the original Doomsday outfit, but it's not 100%. And again, we do have these really big, beefy legs with those spikes coming out of his shins. So overall, really like that. And he has really massive feet. Like my thumb is about the same size as his foot, and that's just putting it into perspective. And I have really long fingers, guys, so Doomsday here has a lot of heft, weight, and size to him, and I really love that. So with his details out of the way, let's actually get Doomsday compared to other figures you may have in your collection, just so you can get a scale of this guy. And so here we have Doomsday posed next to a Marvel Legends Cyclops and a DC Multiverse Superman. Here we have Doomsday posed next to a WWE Elite Scale figure and a Mezco 112 Collective Popeye the Sailor Man. Here we have Doomsday posed next to a Lightning Collection White Ranger and a Star Wars Black Series Mandalorian. Here we have the Storm Collectibles Doomsday posed next to the Mattel's DC Universe Classics Doomsday. Here we have the Storm Collectibles Doomsday posed next to the Mattel New 52 Collect and Connect Doomsday. And finally, here we have Doomsday posed next to the Storm Collectibles Mortal Kombat Goro. So with the comparisons out of the way, let's actually run through Doomsday's articulation really fast. I'm going to try to do this all on camera. If I do get out of frame, forgive me, he is a big figure. Now we do have the Storm Collectibles barbell joint going from the neck all the way down into the inner torso, and that can allow Doomsday to look up about that far. He can look down about that far. He can tilt his head side to side, so really good movement there. Does turn left and right, no problem. His arms are on ball sockets going into the torso, so they do pivot back. They do pivot forward. You do gotta watch out for this plastic cap that they have in it. We have a soft torso right here, and then a hard plastic cap right here, so you might end up catching it if you're not being cautious of what you're doing, so that might snag like that. Just be aware of how you have that joint, but we do get a lot of good range just in that ball joint, and I'm pretty sure you can hear it. His arm does go all the way around, no issues there, and the cap didn't want to cooperate. Arm goes out to the side, only about that far, but if you use the ball joint, which I just popped out of place, and that's a really big ball joint, look at it. But yeah, he can pivot to the out about that far with the ball joint, but do be aware that you might pop the joints out, and I've been known to pop shoulders out of Storm Collectible reviews, so bear with me on that. He does have a bicep swivel, which works no problem. He does have double bend at the elbow, giving us only about 90 degrees, if that. Let's see if this other arm will go a little bit further. If we nope, he only goes about 90 degrees, so that is a little bit unfortunate, but he is such a beefy figure, I guess I can forgive it. We do have a really big ball hinge here at the wrist, so it does move up and down. We can have that in and out, so we get full range of movement there, and then it also swivels on that peg. We have a really nice ball joint right here on Doomsday. You can see it moves around really nicely. Now the only problem is they didn't sculpt enough of his upper torso right here, so there are points where you may snag it on the harder plastic, so do be cautious about how you do that. But we get full range there as well as rotation. We do have a ball joint right here at the waist, and that's a pretty stiff joint. He does go back about that far. It does get a little bit gappy, does lean forward, not that great, but you do get more movement in the top. So if you use both those joints together, we get a really nice bend here on Doomsday. Legs, because he is so heavy, the legs are a little bit loose. As you can see, they don't hold the weight all too well. Once you get them to a certain point, they start supporting the weight, but do be aware that the hips on Doomsday are loose, and it is a universal problem. All the other Doomsday reviews I've seen have had that exact same issue. He does have a thigh swivel up high. We have a double bend here at the knee. That joint, yeah, we only go up to about 90 degrees on Doomsday, which is a little bit unfortunate. Yeah, that joint doesn't want to go anywhere further than that, although it does have room to go further. They didn't engineer that knee to bend more than 90 degrees. His ankle does hinge back and forward, although we really don't get too much forward movement. You're mainly going to be getting backwards movement on that. And then we do have forward facing pin for rocker ankle, so Doomsday does have pretty decent rocker ankle. And then finally we have a toe hinge, a very generous toe hinge at that. So that's Doomsday's articulation for you, and if I can get this guy all back together. He's a really monstrous figure, and he's really, really impressive. Storm Collectibles has knocked it out of the park with this particular figure. So, with that out of the way, guys, everything has been looked at. Let's actually move on to my final thoughts, and then we'll wrap up this review. And so here we have the Storm Collectibles Injustice Gods Among Us Doomsday posed for my final thoughts. And overall, I absolutely love this figure. Doomsday is one of my favorite plot devices in comics. Yes, he is a plot device, not an actual character, but I digress. This is an absolute winner here by Storm Collectibles. Storm Collectibles normally releases really good products, and this Doomsday is a really good product. Now, I'm not just saying that because I really do enjoy the game, but this Doomsday is one of the best Doomsday figures we have ever received from any company. I think the next best figure has been the DC Universe Classics Doomsday, but this far exceeds it in terms of articulation, sculpt, paint, and detail. If you have to have one Doomsday in your collection, I really recommend finding this Doomsday and adding it to your shelf. He is the perfect combination of paint, articulation, scale, and accessories. There's so much to love about this figure. Now, I think the one accessory that he probably should have come with is a torn up Superman cape, but he doesn't have it in Injustice, so I can understand why Storm Collectibles omitted that from this figure. Now, the only downside to this figure is that at the time I'm making this video, he is sold out everywhere. Big Bad Toy Store, Entertainment Earth, the Storm Collectible website, even Amazon is sold out of this Doomsday. Now, they do get some Doomsdays once in a while, but you gotta be on the site when it goes up, otherwise you do miss your chance. Another thing that might turn people off is that the original price tag of this figure is $104. That is a lot to pay for a single figure, but this Doomsday is pretty much worth every penny in my honest opinion. Now, I don't know what the secondary market for this Doomsday is. It seems like everybody who has this Doomsday refuses to sell it, so I can only imagine getting him secondhand market is going to cost more than probably $200 to $300. With that being said, guys, I'm KingofDragons 5000. Don't forget to like this video, leave a comment, subscribe to my channel. Go check out all my other toy reviews, as well as all my other Storm Collectible videos. Hopefully you find them informative. As always, if there's a figure you'd like to see me review, let me know down in the comments, and if it's in my collection, I'll definitely have a look at it. While you're at it, check out my Instagram account for new and exciting action figure photos, and as always, ring that bell to be notified every time I upload a video. Until next time, guys, I'll see you later. Take care, everyone.